Ambassador Karen Mitchell stood in the center of the grand chamber, feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. The Galactic Council Hall stretched above her like a cathedral built by giants. 12 massive seats formed a circle around her, each one holding a representative from an alien civilization that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Some looked like insects with too many eyes. Others resembled walking crystals that hummed with strange energy. One species appeared to be made entirely of flowing water held together by invisible force fields. Karen wore her best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with Earth's united flag on her shoulder. Her hands were steady, but her heart pounded in her chest. She had delivered hundreds of speeches in her career, negotiated treaties, and faced down hostile governments. None of that prepared her for this moment. The speaker for the council was a Velox named Zethus. His species looked like 7-foot-tall reptiles covered in dark green scales. His eyes were yellow with vertical slits for pupils, and when he spoke, his voice came out as a deep hiss that the translation device in Karen's ear converted to English. He held up a clawed hand and holographic images appeared in the air above them. The images showed human ships, Earth's colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, and defensive stations that orbited the home world. The Council has reached a decision regarding humanity, Zethus announced. His tone made it clear this was not a negotiation. Your species has expanded too quickly. You build too many weapons. You show too much aggression for such a young civilization. The other species of the galaxy have watched you for 70 years since first contact, and we have grown concerned. Karen listened, keeping her face neutral. Inside, she felt cold dread spreading through her stomach. She had known this meeting would be difficult, but something in Zethus's voice told her the situation was worse than anyone had predicted. Therefore, the Velox continued, the Council demands the following. Earth will surrender all colonial holdings beyond your home system within 30 of your standard days. Your military fleet will be reduced to ceremonial vessels only. You will accept Council observers on Earth to ensure compliance. Failure to meet these terms will result in enforcement action. The chamber fell silent. Karen looked around at the other council members. Some avoided her gaze. Others watched her with what might have been pity or perhaps curiosity about how the human would react. The Velox leaned forward in his seat, clearly enjoying her discomfort. This is unacceptable, Karen said, and was proud that her voice did not shake. Earth has not violated any galactic laws. We have not attacked other species. We have defended ourselves when necessary, but we seek only peaceful coexistence. Zethus made a sound that might have been laughter. Your species has been involved in 17 border incidents in the past decade. Your ships carry weapons far beyond what is necessary for self-defense. Intelligence reports suggest you are developing even more dangerous technologies in secret. The Council cannot allow such a volatile species to continue arming itself. Karen wanted to argue that most of those incidents had been provoked by Velox ships testing Earth's defenses, but she knew it would accomplish nothing. The evidence Zethus presented was doctored, twisted to make humanity look like the aggressors. She could see it clearly, but the Council had already made up their minds. I request time to present Earth's response to these demands, Karen said formally. The Council agreed to give her 48 hours. As the meeting ended and the holographic displays faded away, Karen made her way out of the chamber. Her assistant, a young diplomat named Chris Baker, met her in the corridor outside. His face was pale. They're really going to force this, aren't they? Chris asked quietly. Yes, Karen replied. Get me a secure channel to Admiral Harper, immediately. Back on Earth, in a facility buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Jack Harper received Karen's transmission. He was a man in his late 60s with steel-gray hair cut short in military fashion. His face was lined with decades of service, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He listened to the ambassador's report without interruption, his expression growing darker with each sentence. When she finished, there was a long silence. Finally, Harper spoke. They're moving faster than we anticipated. Were there any signs they know about the project? Karen shook her head on the video screen. No indication of that. Zethus seems convinced we're exactly what we appear to be. Dangerous children playing with weapons we don't understand. Good, keep it that way. Harper leaned back in his chair. Return to Earth, Ambassador. We're going to need you here for what comes next. After ending the transmission, Harper turned to the others in the command center. Captain Lisa Brennan stood near a bank of monitors showing Earth's defensive positions. She was a career naval officer, smart and cautious, the kind of person who thought 3 steps ahead. Colonel Pete Sanchez, commander of the Marine Corps contingent, paced near the back of the room. He was younger than Harper, built like someone who still worked out with his troops, and he had a reputation for aggressive tactics. "We need to comply," Lisa said immediately. "Our fleet can't stand against even a fraction of what the Council can deploy. The Velox alone have 600 capital ships. If they decide to enforce this ultimatum with force, we'll lose everything." Pete stopped pacing and turned to face her. "So we just roll over and let them take everything we've built? Everything our people died for out there? We fought for those colonies. We earned them. And we'll lose them permanently if we start a war we can't win," Lisa shot back. "Enough," Harper said quietly, but both officers fell silent. The Admiral had that effect on people. "We're not surrendering, and we're not starting a war we can't win. We're going to show the Council exactly why they should have left humanity alone." He picked up a secure phone from his desk. The line was encrypted with technology that not even the Council's best intelligence services could crack. After 3 rings, a woman's voice answered. Site Director Amy Grant speaking. "Director, this is Harper. How long until she's ready?" There was a pause on the other end. Harper could hear the sound of machinery in the background, the hum of enormous systems powering up. 72 hours, Admiral. All primary systems are green. The crew is ready, but are we certain this is the right move? Once we reveal her, there's no going back. Harper looked at the star map displayed on the wall of the command center. Earth glowed in blue at the center, surrounded by human colonies marked in green. Beyond them, the territories of the Council members spread out like a web covering known space. For 70 years, humanity had existed on the edges of that web. Always watched, never trusted, constantly reminded of how small and weak they were compared to the ancient civilizations. "We're certain," Harper said. "Begin final preparations. In 3 days, the galaxy is going to learn that Earth has teeth." "Understood, Admiral." Grant out. Harper hung up the phone and turned back to his officers. "Lisa, I want all fleet assets pulled back to defensive positions around Earth and Luna. Make it look like we're preparing to comply with the Council's demands. Pete, get your Marines ready for orbital deployment. If the Velox decide to move before we're ready, we need to be able to hold them off." Both officers nodded and moved to carry out their orders. Harper walked to the window of his office, which looked out over a vast underground complex. Thousands of people worked there, military and civilian, all dedicated to Earth's defense. Most of them had no idea what was really happening. They knew their jobs, knew their duty, but the full picture was kept secret for good reason. On a remote moon called Titan's Shadow, orbiting Saturn where few ships ever ventured, something was waking up. The moon was unremarkable, too small to be of interest to colonists, too far from major shipping lanes to be useful for commerce. That was exactly why it had been chosen 40 years ago when the project began. Amy Grant stood in the primary control room, watching dozens of screens showing different sections of the massive facility. She was in her mid-50s, a brilliant engineer who had given up a comfortable career to dedicate her life to this single purpose. Her gray hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the standard white and blue jumpsuit of the facility's technical staff. Around her, alarms chimed softly as automated systems came online one by one. The facility was built inside a hollowed-out mountain, invisible from space, designed to look like nothing more than mining operations if anyone bothered to scan it. Beneath the camouflage, the largest construction project in human history had been underway for 4 decades. "All fusion reactors are online," reported Danny Cruz, Amy's second-in-command. He was a compact man with nervous energy, the kind of engineer who could solve impossible problems but worried constantly about the details. "Power levels are stable. Gravity generators responding normally. Life support is at full capacity." Amy nodded, making notes on her tablet. "What about the weapon systems?" "Charging now. The railguns will be ready in 60 hours. Point defense grids are already active. The main cannon—" Danny hesitated. "The main cannon is still untested at full power, Director. We've run simulations, but actually firing it could have unpredictable results." "Let's hope we don't need to find out," Amy said, though she knew that. Commander Zethis did not wait for Earth's formal response. Less than 12 hours after the Council meeting ended, his fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 60 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver and green in the light of the distant sun. Each ship was a weapon of war refined over centuries of military engineering. Their plasma cannons could turn a city to glass. Their shields had never been penetrated by human weapons in any previous encounter. Zethus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Claw of Dominion. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with efficient precision. Holographic displays showed Earth as a blue and white sphere in the distance, vulnerable and isolated. The Velox commander felt satisfaction flow through him. Humans had been a thorn in his side for years, always pushing boundaries, always questioning the natural order of things. Today would remind them of their place. Take up blockade positions, Zethus ordered. Any human ship attempting to leave the system is to be disabled and boarded. Any ship attempting to reach Earth is to be turned back. We are here to maintain peace and ensure compliance with Council directives. His officers acknowledged the orders. The fleet began to spread out, forming a loose sphere around Earth's orbital space. Smaller ships moved toward the Moon and Mars, where human colonies watched helplessly as alien warships took up positions above them. On Earth, panic spread like wildfire. News networks broadcast continuous coverage of the alien fleet. In New York, London, Beijing, and 100 other cities, people poured into the streets. Some carried signs demanding their governments fight back. Others pleaded for peace at any cost. Arguments broke out between those who wanted to resist and those who believed cooperation was humanity's only chance for survival. The United Nations building in Geneva became a fortress. Secretary General Claire Hoffman called an emergency session, bringing together representatives from every nation. The assembly hall filled with voices shouting in dozens of languages, all demanding answers, all wanting to know what Earth would do next. Claire stood at the podium, her silver hair and calm demeanor at odds with the chaos around her. She had led the UN for 8 years, navigating crises from climate disasters to colonial disputes. Nothing had prepared her for an alien invasion disguised as peacekeeping. "We are attempting to establish communication with Commander Zethus," she announced, her voice amplified through the hall. "Earth's position is clear. We recognize the authority of the Galactic Council, but we cannot accept demands that strip us of our sovereignty and leave us defenseless. We are seeking a peaceful resolution." Her words did little to calm the assembly. A representative from Russia demanded to know why Earth's fleet was not engaging the enemy. A delegate from Brazil asked if the council could be negotiated with. Someone from Japan wanted to know if evacuation of Earth was even possible. Claire had no good answers for any of them. She knew what Admiral Harper was planning, but that information was classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people on Earth knew about the project on Titan's shadow. For everyone else, it appeared that humanity was about to be crushed by forces they could not hope to resist. In orbit above Earth, Captain Greg Palmer commanded the destroyer HMS Defiant. His ship was part of Earth's defensive fleet, positioned between the planet and the approaching Velox forces. The Defiant was a good ship, equipped with the best weapons and shields that human engineering could provide. Palmer knew it would not be enough. He was a career naval officer, 43 years old, with 20 years of service. He had seen combat against pirates in the outer colonies, and once exchanged fire with a Velox patrol ship that had strayed into human territory. The Defiant had barely survived that encounter, and it had been one small patrol ship against his destroyer. Now there were 60 warships out there, and more arriving every hour. "Sir, we're being scanned again," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sophie Grant. "That's the 5th time in an hour. They're trying to get a full profile of our capabilities." Palmer nodded grimly. "Let them look. Won't take them long to figure out we're no threat." He opened a channel to the rest of his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. I know you're all watching the enemy fleet out there. I know you want to do something, but our orders are clear. We hold position and do not engage unless fired upon. Earth's leadership is working on a solution. We need to trust that." He hoped his crew could not hear the doubt in his voice. What solution could there be? Earth's entire fleet combined could not match even a fraction of the Velox forces now surrounding them. The aliens had shields that absorbed every weapon humans had thrown at them. They had faster ships, more powerful guns, and centuries of combat experience. 3 Velox fighters buzzed past the Defiant, close enough that Palmer could see the pilots inside their cockpits. They were showing off, demonstrating their superiority. Palmer's gunner looked at him hopefully, hand hovering over the firing controls. The captain shook his head. Starting a fight now would just get them all killed. On Luna, the largest human colony off Earth, Governor Marcus Webb watched Velox troop ships descend toward the surface. The colony was home to 3 million people, a mix of miners, scientists, and families who had made the moon their home. They had no military defenses worth mentioning. The colony's security forces carried weapons meant for riot control, not warfare. Marcus stood in the colony's command center, surrounded by advisors who all looked to him for answers he did not have. The Velox ships landed at the spaceport, their landing gear crushing the concrete of the landing pads under their weight. Hatches opened and Velox soldiers emerged in powered armor. "They're taking control of the spaceport," reported his security chief, a former military officer named Linda Hayes. "They're not attacking anyone, but they're making it clear they're in charge now." "What are your orders, Governor?" Marcus had no orders to give. What could he order? An evacuation would be impossible with the Velox controlling all spacecraft. Resistance would be suicide. He did the only thing he could do. Tell our people to cooperate. No heroics. We wait and see what happens next. Back at Joint Defense Command beneath the Alps, Admiral Harper watched all of this unfold on multiple screens. Each display showed a different crisis. Earth surrounded by enemy ships, Luna occupied by alien soldiers, Mars colonies cut off from supplies, human vessels being forced to dock and submit to inspection. The carefully built network of human civilization in the solar system was being dismantled piece by piece. Captain Lisa Brennan stood beside him, her face tight with controlled anger. "We should fight. Even if we can't win, we should make them pay for every inch. And lose everything in the process," Harper replied quietly. "Dead martyrs don't rebuild civilizations, Lisa. We need to be smart about this." Colonel Pete Sanchez entered the command center, moving quickly despite his bulk. "Sir, reports are coming in from our intelligence assets. The Velox are preparing for a demonstration. They plan to bombard one of our military installations as a show of force. They want to prove they're serious about the Council's demands." Harper felt cold fury settle into his chest. A bombardment meant casualties. It meant the Velox were willing to kill humans to make their point. He looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 48 hours until the Titan would be ready. Could they hold out that long? His secure phone rang. Amy Grant's voice came through immediately. "Admiral, we've detected the Velox fleet's movements. We can accelerate the timeline if necessary. Give us 36 hours instead of 48. It's risky, but we can do it." Harper made his decision. "Do it. And, Director, prepare to broadcast on all channels when the time comes. I want everyone to see this. The Council, the Velox, every species in the galaxy. They need to understand that Earth will not surrender." He hung up and turned to his command staff. "Get Ambassador Mitchell back here. Prepare a message for transmission to Commander Zethus in the Galactic Council." He paused, considering his words carefully. It's time to show them that humanity has been playing a very long game. On Titan's shadow, Amy Grant was already in motion before Harper's call ended. She ran through the facility's corridors, shouting orders to her staff. Engineers scrambled to their stations. Technicians began emergency procedures to speed up the final system checks. Alarms blared as the facility moved from preparation mode to combat readiness. Danny Cruz met her at the central control room, his tablet showing dozens of status reports. "We're pushing the reactors to maximum output. The hull integrity is solid, but we haven't completed the full weapons calibration. If we launch in 36 hours, the crew will be learning on the fly." "They'll manage," Amy said with more confidence than she felt.
"Get Captain Foster on the line."
He needs to know the timeline has moved up. Ryan Foster was already on his way. The captain had been living on Titan's shadow for the past 6 months, preparing his crew for this moment. He was younger than most ship commanders, only 38, but he had been selected for his tactical brilliance and his ability to stay calm under pressure. He had trained his entire adult life for the command of a ship that officially did not exist. The mountain on Titan's shadow exploded, not from weapons or sabotage, but from pure engineering power, as the massive facility split itself apart. Rock and metal that had disguised the construction site for 40 years folded back on giant hinges, revealing the hollow interior. Warning lights flashed across the surface of the small moon as atmospheric shields activated to prevent the vacuum of space from flooding into the facility. From the heart of the mountain emerged something that should not exist. The UES Titan moved slowly at first, its enormous bulk sliding forward on magnetic rails that guided it out of the construction bay. The ship was nearly 3 kilometers long, a weapon of war so massive it made the Velox battleships look like toys. Its hull was matte black, covered in angular armor plating that seemed to drink in the light from distant Saturn. Weapon systems bristled along every surface. Launch bays lined its flanks like the ports of ancient naval warships. The bow featured a massive circular opening that pulsed with barely contained energy. On the Titan's bridge, Captain Ryan Foster sat in the command chair and felt the ship come alive around him. The bridge was vast, easily 100 meters across, filled with holographic displays and control stations. His crew of 500 worked at their posts with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment in simulators for years, but nothing could truly prepare someone for the reality of commanding a ship this powerful. "All systems green," reported First Officer Nina Ross from her station to Ryan's right. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her early 30s who had served as Ryan's executive officer during the entire training program. "Fusion reactors at full power. Gravity drives responding normally. All weapon systems online and ready." Chief Engineer Paul Grant spoke up from engineering. "Captain, I'm showing some power fluctuations in the secondary grid, but nothing critical. We're pushing the reactors harder than we ever did in trials. She's holding together, but keep an eye on it." Ryan nodded, watching the tactical display show the Titan's position relative to Earth and the Velox fleet. They were still several hours away at current speed, but that was about to change. "Helm, bring us to combat speed. Set course for Earth. All hands to battle stations." The Titan accelerated. Its engines created a plasma wake that stretched for hundreds of kilometers behind the ship, visible even from Earth as a streak of blue-white fire cutting across the dark. The ship moved with impossible grace for something so large. Its gravity drives bending space around it to reduce the effective mass and allow for acceleration that would have torn apart a conventionally powered vessel. On Earth, every telescope and sensor array turned toward the new contact. Admiral Harper watched from his command center as data poured in. He allowed himself a small smile. After 40 years of secrecy, after decades of careful planning and construction, the moment had finally arrived. "Get me the Titan's command channel," Harper ordered. When Ryan's face appeared on the screen, the Admiral spoke with quiet pride. "Captain Foster, the eyes of humanity are on you. Show them what we built. Show the galaxy what Earth can do." "Yes, sir," Ryan replied. "Titan is ready. We're going to make them remember this day." The Velox detected the Titan almost immediately. On the bridge of the Claw of Dominion, alarms blared as sensors picked up the massive energy signature approaching from the outer system. Commander Zethus turned to his tactical officer with annoyance. "What is that?" "Unknown vessel, Commander. It's huge. Mass readings are off the scale. Energy output is higher than our entire fleet combined." The tactical officer's voice carried an edge of uncertainty. "Sir, it's heading directly for us at high speed." Zethus studied the data with growing interest. So the humans had built themselves a large ship. Perhaps they thought size would intimidate the Velox. How naive. "All ships weapons free. Prepare to engage the human vessel. Let us destroy their pride before we crush their planet." The Velox fleet moved into attack formation. 60 warships adjusted their positions. Plasma cannons charging, shields at maximum power. Fighter craft launched from carrier ships, swarming toward the approaching contact. It was the standard Velox battle doctrine, overwhelming force applied with precision. It had never failed them before. Ryan watched the enemy fleet on his tactical display. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Matt Sullivan, called out target information. "Sir, I count 60 capital ships and approximately 400 fighters inbound. They're spreading out to surround us. Standard encirclement pattern." "Good," Ryan said calmly. "Let them get close. I want them to see what happens next." He opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. In a few minutes, we're going to make contact with the Velox fleet. They think we're just a big target. They think their shields and weapons will tear us apart like they've done to every human ship they've encountered. Today we prove them wrong. Weapons free. Engage at will." The first Velox fighters reached weapons range and opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space toward the Titan, bright streams of superheated energy that had destroyed countless ships before. The fighter pilots expected to see the human vessel's shields light up and begin to fail under the assault. Instead, something incredible happened. The Titan's point defense systems activated. Thousands upon thousands of weapon systems came online simultaneously. Kinetic interceptors fired streams of magnetically accelerated projectiles that created a wall of metal in space. Laser turrets swiveled and fired with computer precision. Energy weapons that the Velox had never seen before lit up the void. The plasma bolts from the fighters never reached the Titan's shields. They were intercepted and destroyed hundreds of meters away from the hull. Velox fighter pilots had only seconds to realize their mistake before the point defense grid turned on them. The kill zone around the Titan was 300 kilometers in every direction. Any ship that entered that zone was instantly targeted by dozens of weapon systems. Fighter craft exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Pilots tried to evade, but the Titan's targeting computers tracked them with inhuman precision. Within 2 minutes, 100 fighters were destroyed. The survivors broke off their attack runs and fled in panic. Commander Zethus stared at his tactical display in disbelief. What just happened? Where are my fighters? They're gone, sir, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking. The human ship has defensive systems we've never encountered. It's like flying into a wall of fire. Our weapons aren't even reaching its hull. Then we use the fleet, Zethus snarled. All ships full assault. Concentrated fire on that vessel. I want it destroyed now. The Velox capital ships opened fire as one. 60 warships unleashed their primary weapons. Plasma cannons that could level cities fired in unison, creating a storm of energy that had broken entire planetary defenses. The combined firepower of the Velox fleet lit up space like a small sun. On the Titan's bridge, warning alarms sounded as the ship's shields absorbed the incoming fire. Ryan watched his shield status carefully. The first barrage dropped shield strength to 92%. The second dropped it to 86%. But the shields held, and they were regenerating faster than the Velox could drain them. Their weapons can hurt us if they hit the same spot repeatedly, Nina reported. But they'd need sustained fire for several minutes to break through. They won't get several minutes, Ryan said. He looked at Matt Sullivan. Tactical, target the nearest enemy ships. Fire when ready. The Titan's main weapons came to life. Railguns that ran along the ship's spine fired projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed. The rounds were solid cylinders of dense metal wrapped in magnetic fields. When they hit, they released kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. The first salvo hit 3 Velox battleships. Their shields lit up brilliant blue, absorbed the first round, flickered under the second, and failed completely on the third. The fourth round punched through the hulls like they were made of paper. 3 Velox ships broke apart, their interiors exposed to vacuum, their crews dead before they knew what happened. The wreckage tumbled through space, still glowing from the impact heat. Reload and fire, Ryan ordered. All railguns continuous fire. Let's thin them out. The Titan became a storm of death. Every few seconds, another salvo of railgun rounds launched. Each salvo destroyed or crippled at least one Velox ship. The alien vessels tried to maneuver, tried to focus their fire, tried to find some way to respond to this impossible threat. Nothing worked. The human ship was too fast, its weapons too powerful, its defenses too strong. Commander Zethus watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had served the Velox Empire for decades exploded in seconds. Crews he had trained with were snuffed out like candles. His tactical display showed red icons multiplying as ship after ship reported critical damage or simply vanished from sensors. All ships, focus fire on their engines, Zethus ordered desperately. If we can disable their movement, we can bring more of the fleet to bear. The Velox ships tried to execute the order, but the Titan was already moving through their formation. Ryan had brought the Dreadnought in close, using its superior maneuverability to stay inside the Velox fleet's engagement envelope, where their larger ships had trouble targeting without hitting each other. It was a tactic from ancient naval warfare, the smaller fast ship diving in. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session exactly 8 hours after the destruction of the Velox fleet. The council chamber, usually a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, crackled with tension and barely controlled anger. Representatives from 12 species filled their seats, but the Velox chair sat empty. The empire that had dominated council military affairs for 3 centuries had been humbled in a single afternoon by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Ambassador Karen Mitchell stood once again in the center of the chamber, but everything had changed. Where before she had felt small and vulnerable, now she stood tall with confidence. The holographic displays around her did not show threats and demands. Instead, they showed footage of the Titan, replayed from a dozen different angles as the mighty Dreadnought systematically destroyed the Velox blockade. The council speaker was not Zethus. The Velox commander was dead along with thousands of his crew. In his place sat a different Velox, older, and bearing the scars of many battles. His name was Corvin, and he spoke with barely controlled rage. The council demands an explanation. How did humanity construct such a weapon? Where did you acquire the technology? Which species violated the technology sharing treaty to arm a developing civilization? Karen let the questions hang in the air for a moment before responding. Her voice was calm and steady. The technology is entirely human in origin. No species assisted us. No treaties were broken. We built the HFY Titan ourselves, using our own engineering and our own resources over the course of 40 years. The council chamber erupted in disbelief. A being that looked like a floating crystal cluster pulsed with agitated colors. The insectoid representative from the Hive Collective clicked its mandibles in what might have been laughter or disbelief. A representative from the Aquatic Norlax Confederation spoke through its translation device, its voice bubbling and wet. Impossible. Humanity's technology is centuries behind what would be required to construct such a vessel. The gravity weapons alone should be beyond your theoretical understanding. And yet we built it, Karen replied. She gestured, and the holographic displays changed to show the interior of the Titan. Images of human engineers working on advanced systems, footage of the construction bay on Titan's shadow, technical specifications that made several council members lean forward in their seats with obvious interest. Humanity has been underestimated since the day we reached the stars. You saw us as children playing with toys we did not understand. That perception served our purpose as well. From Earth, transmitted via secure channel and displayed on the council's main screen, Admiral Harper's image appeared. The Admiral had chosen to appear in full military dress uniform, every medal and ribbon on display. Behind him, the command center buzzed with activity. He looked directly at the council representatives as he spoke. When Earth made first contact 70 years ago, we entered a galaxy ruled by fear and intimidation. The Galactic Council maintains peace not through justice or cooperation, but through overwhelming military superiority. Every member species has battle fleets capable of destroying any challenger. The Council's peaceful nature exists only because no one dares to challenge the established powers. Admiral Harper paused, letting his words sink in. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The truth was uncomfortable but undeniable. The council had maintained order for millennia through a simple principle: might makes right. Any species that stepped out of line faced swift and brutal correction. Earth's leadership understood this reality immediately, Harper continued. We recognized that as long as we appeared weak, we would be treated as subjects rather than equals. So we made a decision. We would build strength in secret while appearing to struggle openly. Every failed weapons test you observed was carefully staged. Every technological limitation we complained about was deliberate misdirection. While your intelligence services watched our public shipyards build simple cruisers and destroyers, our best minds were working on something far more significant. Captain Lisa Brennan appeared beside Harper in the transmission. She held a data tablet and referenced it as she spoke. Project Titan began 42 years ago. We selected Titan's Shadow, a minor moon with no strategic value, as our construction site. We built the facility first, camouflaging it as mining operations. Then we began construction of the ship itself. The project consumed resources from 17 nations. Over 50,000 people worked on various aspects of the Titan over 4 decades. The secrecy was absolute. Not even most of Earth's government knew the full scope of what we were building. The Norlax representative, a creature named Velis, who had always been one of humanity's more sympathetic contacts, spoke up. But the technology. Humanity's public knowledge does not include gravity manipulation, exotic matter containment, or the weapons we witnessed. How did you bridge that gap? Karen smiled slightly. Espionage, reverse engineering, and human ingenuity. Your intelligence services are very good, council members, but they focus on military targets and government facilities. They rarely pay attention to academic institutions or private research companies. For decades, human scientists and engineers have been studying every piece of alien technology we could acquire through legal trade or less legal means. We learned from what you built, then we improved on it. This caused another stir in the council, the crystalline being pulsed angry orange colors. You admit to technology theft. That is a violation of multiple treaties. Treaties that apply to recognized sovereign powers, Karen countered. Treaties you claim did not fully apply to humanity because we were too new, too undeveloped, too primitive. You cannot have it both ways, Council. Either we are a sovereign species with full rights and responsibilities, or we are exempt from treaties designed to control equals. For 70 years you treated us as the latter while demanding we follow rules designed for the former. Admiral Harper continued the explanation. The Titan's weapon systems are human designs based on observed principles. Your plasma cannons taught us about energy containment. Your shield technology showed us how to manipulate electromagnetic fields. Your faster-than-light drives revealed the mathematics of space-time compression. We took those lessons and built something new. The railguns are simply kinetic weapons scaled up to capital ship size. The gravity lance is theoretical physics made practical through engineering persistence. On Titan's shadow, Director Amy Grant watched the council session on her monitors while coordinating the return of the Titan to its dock. The ship needed repairs after the battle. Hull plates had been damaged by Velox weapons fire. Some systems had overheated during the intense combat, but the ship had proven itself beyond all expectations. The project she had dedicated her life to had succeeded. Danny Cruz approached her with a concerned expression. Director, we're receiving communication requests from 40 different sources. Everyone from news organizations to scientific institutions to what appear to be intelligence agencies. The secret is out. The whole galaxy knows about us now. Good, Amy replied. That was always the point. The Titan was never meant to remain hidden forever. It was meant to be revealed at exactly the right moment, when Earth needed to prove it could not be bullied or threatened. Let them know what we built. Let them understand that humanity is done being the galaxy's underdog. Back in the council chamber, the debate raged on. The Velox representative Corvin demanded sanctions against Earth for violations of numerous regulations and treaties. Several other species echoed his concerns, arguing that allowing humanity to possess such military power would destabilize the entire galactic order. Other species, particularly those who had suffered under Velox dominance, saw opportunity in humanity's demonstration of strength. The Hive Collective representative spoke in its clicking, chittering language translated by the Council's systems. The collective recognizes that humanity has achieved what it set out to achieve. They have demonstrated they cannot be easily conquered or controlled. The question before the Council is simple. Do we acknowledge this reality and adjust our relationship with Earth accordingly? Or do we attempt to suppress this new power before it grows stronger? That question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Karen understood what was being suggested. Some council members were considering a preemptive strike against Earth, a full council fleet deployed to destroy the Titan, and any other secret projects humanity might have hidden away. It would mean war on a scale that would dwarf the brief battle with the Velox fleet. It would mean millions of deaths on both sides. Karen had been authorized by Earth's leadership to reveal more information if necessary. She made the decision. Before the Council considers such action, you should know that the Titan is not alone. Admiral Harper's image smiled grimly. We learned from history, Council members. When you build something that changes the strategic balance, you do not build just one. Project Titan included 3 ships, not one. The UES Atlas and UES Aegis are currently completing final construction. They will be operational within days. And the techniques we developed to build these ships have reduced construction time significantly. If forced into The Velox Empire did not accept defeat gracefully. 3 days after the Council vote recognized Earth's sovereignty, reports reached Admiral Harper that the Velox were mobilizing their full military strength. Intelligence suggested they were assembling a fleet of 300 warships near their home system, far beyond what they had sent to blockade Earth. The message was clear. The Velox would make an example of humanity regardless of what the Council decided. Admiral Harper stood in the command center studying the intelligence reports with growing concern. Captain Ryan Foster appeared on screen from the Titan, which was still undergoing repairs in orbit around Earth. The battle damage had been more extensive than initially reported. Several hull sections needed replacement, and the gravity lance required complete recalibration after its first combat use. How long until the Titan is combat ready? Harper asked. Ryan consulted with his crew off-screen before answering. 48 hours minimum, Admiral. Chief Engineer Grant says we can accelerate some repairs, but the gravity lance will take time. If we go into battle before it's properly calibrated, We risk the weapon overloading and taking out half the ship. Harper nodded grimly. Understood. What's your assessment of facing 300 Velox ships with the Titan alone? We'd put up a hell of a fight, Ryan said honestly. But eventually they'd overwhelm us. The point defense systems can only handle so many targets. They'd take heavy losses, maybe 50 or 60 ships destroyed before they brought us down. But they'd win through attrition. That was what Harper had expected to hear. One Dreadnought, no matter how powerful, could not stand against an entire empire's military. He terminated the call and turned to his staff. Get me Director Grant at Titan's Shadow. We need those other Dreadnoughts operational immediately. On Titan's Shadow, Amy Grant was already working miracles. The construction facility ran at maximum capacity, with every engineer and technician working double shifts. The UES Atlas and UES Aegis floated in their construction bays, surrounded by work crews in environmental suits. Both ships were technically functional, but barely. They had engines, weapons, and shields, but hundreds of secondary systems remained incomplete or untested. When Admiral Harper's call came through, Amy did not sugarcoat the situation. Admiral, if you need these ships for combat in the next week, I can deliver them. But they'll be incomplete. Life support is patchy in some sections. The crews will be working with backup systems for critical functions. And we have not had time for proper shakedown cruises. The captains will be learning their ship's capabilities in the middle of combat. Can they fight? Harper asked bluntly. Yes, sir. They can fight. They just might not survive as well as the Titan did. These ships are held together with determination and hope right now. Harper made his decision. Launch them as soon as they can move under their own power. I need 3 Dreadnoughts, not one perfect ship. The Velox are coming, and coming in force. We need to show them that destroying Earth will cost them more than their empire can afford to pay. Amy began issuing orders immediately. Danny Cruz coordinated with the ship crews to prioritize essential systems. They would launch with skeleton crews, volunteers from across Earth's military who understood they might be flying into ships that could fail at any moment. But they also understood that Earth's survival depended on making the Velox believe humanity had more strength than it actually possessed. Captain Helen Price took command of the UES Atlas. She was a veteran of Earth's Space Navy, 45 years old with 20 years of command experience on smaller vessels. She had been training in simulators for the Atlas for 8 months, but nothing could prepare someone for the reality of commanding an incomplete warship into battle against overwhelming odds. As she walked through the Atlas's corridors toward the bridge, she saw work crews still installing systems. Some sections were unpressurized, forcing her to wear an environmental suit. But the ship's bones were solid and its weapons worked. That would have to be enough. Captain Ben Walker commanded the UES Aegis. He was younger than Helen, only 36, but he had distinguished himself in every assignment. He was known for aggressive tactics and an ability to think 3 steps ahead of his opponents. As he took his place in the Aegis's command chair, he looked around at his crew. They were young, nervous, but determined. Most had never seen combat. They were about to get a harsh education. The 3 Dreadnoughts met in space between Earth and Mars, forming a defensive triangle. Captain Ryan Foster took tactical command from the Titan, coordinating the movements of all 3 ships. First Officer Nina Ross worked with her counterparts on the Atlas and Aegis, establishing communication protocols and shared tactical displays. They had less than 2 days to become a fleet. On Earth, Secretary General Claire Hoffman addressed the United Nations and broadcast her message across the planet. Her words were measured but firm. The Velox Empire has rejected peace. They are assembling a fleet to attack Earth, to punish us for daring to defend ourselves. This is not a sanctioned council action. This is revenge, pure and simple. Earth's dreadnoughts will meet this threat. Our crews will fight to protect our home. But every citizen should prepare for the possibility that this battle may not go in our favor. The honesty of her message resonated across Earth. People understood the stakes. If the dreadnoughts fell, the Velox fleet would bombard Earth from orbit. Millions would die. Humanity's brief moment of triumph might end in extinction. But rather than panic, a strange calm settled over the planet. Humanity had faced extinction before, in the early days of first contact when it became clear how small and vulnerable Earth was in the galactic community. They had survived through ingenuity and determination. They would do so again. The Velox fleet approached Earth's system 5 days after the council vote. 300 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, in a massive formation that stretched across thousands of kilometers. At the center flew the Imperial flagship Vengeance of Scales, a massive vessel twice the size of a standard Velox battleship. Supreme Commander Varix, the highest-ranking Velox military officer, commanded the fleet personally. The Empire would not accept another humiliation. Varix was old by Velox standards. His scales faded to almost gray, his eyes clouded with age. But his mind remained sharp, honed by 50 years of military command. He had studied the recordings of the Titan's battle against Zethus's fleet extensively. He understood now that the humans had superior technology and tactics. But technology and tactics meant nothing against overwhelming numbers. The Velox would win through simple mathematics. They would sacrifice 100 ships, 200 if necessary, to destroy the human dreadnoughts. The price would be acceptable to restore the Empire's honor. All ships, battle formation Delta, Varix commanded. His fleet reorganized itself into a complex pattern designed to surround the enemy while maintaining overlapping fields of fire. Intelligence indicates 3 human dreadnoughts are present. We will engage all 3 simultaneously, preventing them from supporting each other. Wings Alpha and Beta will target the damaged vessel, the Titan. Wings Gamma and Delta will engage the other 2 ships. All ships are authorized to use maximum firepower. The humans must be completely destroyed. On the Titan's bridge, Ryan Foster watched the Velox fleet deploy. His tactical officer, Matt Sullivan, provided updates as enemy ships moved into position. "Sir, they're spreading out more than last time. They learned from their mistakes. They're staying outside our point defense range and trying to surround us." "They learned, but so did we," Ryan replied. He opened a channel to the Atlas and Aegis. "All ships, formation Echo. We move as one unit. Maximum acceleration toward the enemy center. We punch through their line before they can close the trap." The 3 dreadnoughts accelerated together, their engines creating brilliant plasma wakes. Instead of waiting for the Velox to surround them, they charged directly at the enemy formation. It was an aggressive move that caught Varix by surprise. The human ships were not trying to defend. They were attacking. "All wings, concentrate fire on the lead vessel," Varix ordered. Over 100 Velox ships adjusted their aim and fired simultaneously. The Titan's shields lit up under the massive barrage. Warning alarms screamed across the bridge as shield strength dropped rapidly, but the ship kept accelerating, kept driving forward into the teeth of the enemy fleet. Ryan gave the order for the Titan's weapons to fire. Railguns launched their deadly projectiles at relativistic speeds. The Titan's missiles created swarms of intelligent warheads that sought out enemy ships. Fighter craft poured from the launch bays to engage Velox interceptors, and behind the Titan, the Atlas and Aegis added their own firepower to the assault. Captain Helen Price commanded the Atlas with steady calm, even as her ship shook under enemy fire. "Tactical, target the ships on our port side. Pour everything we have into them. Engineering, I need more power to forward shields." Paul Grant's brother, chief engineer on the Atlas, responded over the intercom. "Captain, I'm giving you everything the reactors can handle. If I push them harder, we risk overload." "Push them anyway," Helen ordered. "If we die, I'd rather it be from our own reactors than Velox plasma."